welcome on in to another action-packed and live NFL wildcard edition of the Between the Hash Marks podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lombardo, joined by my friend, colleague, mentor, and the purveyor of the Two Deep Zone. None other than Mike Tanier is here with the regular season in the books and the playoffs about to begin. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, and a very momentous occasion happened this morning because it's a nice day outside here in the greater Philadelphia area. I took the decorations down.
See, that's always one of the saddest days of the year,
Yes.
especially taking down the tree. Because the living room, you saw the living room on the pod a few weeks ago. It's cozy, it's warm, it's festive. But yeah, we took ours down this weekend as well. And as my son Luca called it, we put Christmas away. We put away Christmas.
You put Christmas away. For the little ones, it can be very sad. So you try to make it like a festive event. It's like when Christmas comes back, look how excited you'll be, and we're going to have fun doing this, this, and this. The last thing you want, especially here in Philadelphia, is to schedule up to taking down the decorations with an Eagles playoff loss. Because that can be like you get a little drunk, you go out front, you light the tree on fire. You don't want to do that. We're not recommending that. So you get ahead of things a little bit if you're so inclined.
Yeah, my wife got way ahead of things because I saw the weather forecast. It was going to be a little warmer this week. I figured I would go out and I'd bring in the blow molds and, the lights will come off the trees when they come off the trees. Who cares? Right. 12:45, I'm down in the office, and she comes trudging down with like tangled up strands of Christmas lights and extension cords. And next thing you know, Mickey Mouse and the snowman, they're coming down. And it's like, whoa, I had a plan. I was going to get this done. But she wanted it done, over with, packed away.
Because teachers, when they go back, don't want to hear it. Teachers get I'm telling you, because I have to kind of like keep my wife, I got a plan. It's that tunnel vision. All the Christmas crap is over, especially she teaches little ones, right?
Yes. Yeah. Middle
Get
school.
this out of your brains and be thinking about January, February, thinking of your content. So it's like that was a woman with a mission you were dealing with.
Yes, it was. And again, just before kickoff, it's been like either disaster or new missions taking place in the Lombardo household in the command center on Sundays. Hopefully, wildcard weekend, we can put the distractions away. And of course, if you enjoyed the podcast, please go ahead and subscribe in the Apple Podcast Store. Leave us those 5-star reviews. Let us know what you like about the show. Feel free to rip us a little bit if you want. Just leave the 5 stars and we'll read them on the show. Subscribe to Mike Tanier's Two Deep Zone on Substack if you enjoy his firebrand of storytelling, the dad jokes, the sarcasm, the Superman analogies, more importantly, the analytical deep dives and analysis. That's the Two Deep Zone on Substack. And if you enjoyed my storytelling, the features, and the insider nuggets that you get along the way, subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack as well. Mike, I'm excited for wildcard weekend. I don't know about you, but just looking at the bracket, it really feels like, we might say this pretty often, but more than ever, it feels wide open, or as wide open as it's ever been.
There are there's the Rams-Panthers. And then other than that, there's no sure things. And that sure thing comes with an upset built into the storyline. So you can't be that sure thing. Right. It's going to be compelling, interesting. Some teams that we've never thought we'd see go head-to-head or going head-to-head. A lot of compelling matchups. We're going to talk about those a little bit later in the show.
Yes, absolutely. And from a quarterback standpoint, it's a lot different because for the first time since Patrick Mahomes was a freshman at Texas Tech, the Kansas City Chiefs are not in the playoffs. Joe Burrow, despite his voicing his displeasure about Zach Taylor is back. The Burrow and the Bengals are not in the playoffs. They're not standing in the way. And after Tyler Loop missed that field goal wide right in Pittsburgh on Sunday night, Lamar Jackson and the Ravens are not in the postseason. So the door is more wide open than ever for a Josh Allen legacy-defining performance, for a Drake May, a Bo Nix, or a Trevor Lawrence to make a run. But it is a very different field, a very different crop of postseason quarterbacks than we've seen in a long time over in the AFC.
That's what you talked about in your Monday column, and it's kind of like half crisis, half opportunity. It's an opportunity for these guys. It's a crisis if some of them can't make the most of it, if this is their 4th chance, 5th chance, 6th chance, et cetera. And as you touched on again in that Monday column where you talked specifically about a couple guys, that's something I want to do today rather than starting out with the playoff preview, which can get a little tiresome by the end of the week, and the Black Monday news, which is still developing, and I think we've already hit the big stories. Wanted to do sort of a legacy watch.
Okay.
So we have 14 quarterbacks right now, and everybody wants to win. Everyone kind of looks bad if they lose. But who needs this playoff some victories in the playoffs to cement their legacy or their reputation or however you want to put it? And I thought it'd be fun to rank them, and I ranked them myself 14-1, least needy to most needy. They need a big playoff performance. I thought I'd run them past you and maybe run them past your list.
I love it. I love it, and
Mhm.
I think that yours is interesting because it's a really interesting mix of where some of the young guys fall on this list and where some of the veterans, guys with rings on the fingers, and it's interesting going into these playoffs. As I pointed out, there are only four quarterbacks in these playoffs that have rings on their fingers. It's wide open.
One, two. Okay. Wait.
Well, it might be
That's
three.
four.
It's
No,
Stafford,
no, no,
it's
don't say it.
Hurts, and it's
I count. Never mind. We're just going to get into it. We're going to get into it.
yes. We're gonna
I'm
get
mixed
into it.
up here. Right. Well, my list I know has one mistake. We were talking off screen. I realized I made a mistake on my list, but I know there's a couple guys we're going to argue. So, and as we'll go, we'll make sure we count the rings properly because I'm
Yes,
very mixed up right now. So I'm going to start with the quarterback who needs these playoffs the least. Number 14, Drake May. I think he's proven his point this year.
I agree. Might be the MVP when you wake up at NFL Honors on Saturday before the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
Explosive collection of skill players around him. Second year in the league. Yeah, I'd say that even finishing as the number 2 seed and winning the AFC East, you proved your point. You don't need to make the deep playoff run. Lots of runway between now and when we start debating the legacy of Drake May.
Exactly right. The legacy story has begun. Mission accomplished to that degree. Yeah, Patriots fans are hungrier. Patriots fans, if they wake up after a loss, we're like, okay, we'll get them next year. Okay. So 14 is Drake May. And in a similar vein, 13 would be Caleb Williams. Flipped the entire script on his storyline from his rookie season, which was full of contentiousness and controversy. Now he's out there, has developed, took that team to a playoff run, to
A
NFC
division
North
title.
crown.
Yep.
Right, right. And it's like, yeah, the Bears and their fans, everybody knows this is a work in progress for him and Ben Johnson. Mission accomplished. Getting there was 3/4 of the job.
I'm going to go a little bit different here. I'm going to zag a little bit with my
Okay.
choice number 13. I'm going to go Bryce Young in this spot
Okay.
because he was labeled a bust. It was benched at one point a year ago, and it thought that it was going to be over and done with in Carolina. I don't love the supporting cast with the Panthers. This
No.
feels like a backdoor into the playoffs out of the worst division in football. Making the postseason is great. Winning a playoff game or two is fine, but they're not going to make sweeping changes with Bryce Young. They're going to keep building around Bryce Young going into next year. To me, he answered the critics by bouncing back from the benching. He doesn't need the deep run to change the narrative any more than it's already been changed.
I'm going to put a pin in that because I had Bryce Young as my big mistake and was
Okay.
expecting you to come after me for it. But I'm just going to put a pin in that for now. Okay. Because
Okay.
it's going to come up in a minute. Interesting points. Okay. 12th. And this is going to be a point of debate for us.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers. Okay, I'm just going to say real quick. History is not going to give a crap about this unless he wins the Super Bowl, and then it's like one of the greatest comeback stories ever told. Otherwise, the legacy was cemented as of 2021, and this is all just late career filler. That's my take on this. We off camera, you disagree with this?
I do disagree with this one a little bit, and I wrote
Okay.
it in the column that you talk to Hall of Fame voters more often than I do, so you're more in tune with their
Dude,
psyche.
wait. He's a Hall of Famer.
Of course he is. Oh no,
Okay,
I'm
all
not.
right.
I'm not debating that.
Yeah.
But if it continues to be one and dones, is he the first ballot Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
Like locked out? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because it just seems like the latter half of that career has either been disappointment at the end in Green Bay, one and done's, disaster in New York. There's a bit of postseason compiling, it feels like, if you don't make the deep run to, say, a championship game or a Super Bowl. I don't think they have the team to do it.
No,
He's
right.
a Hall of Famer, but you're telling me that whatever conversation was going to be had, it's almost like the last 6 years don't matter, right?
It's not even the last 6 years. He was MVP in 2021. So it's the Jets stuff on that will just be put into the same category Brett Favre, the same category like Ken Stabler, some of these other guys in. And then at the end of the career, he turned into a goofy guy. Oh, and by the way, they did make the playoffs, so it wasn't complete BS.
Yeah.
So the difference between, they made the playoffs on a missed field goal and they won a game, lost a game, he broke both his legs because the Texans defense destroyed him, whatever. What it is, I'll say this, it's between the first ballot Hall of Fame and like the Mount Rushmore Pantheon.
Yeah.
Because he is not Mount Rushmore Pantheon Brady guy. But if the second Super Bowl at age 42 happens and he does something unprecedented, that's at play.
Then it's Brady, Manning, Rodgers, right?
Yeah.
If you get that second Super Bowl, and Montana is up there, right?
Right. It's something like that. Whereas this is the Mount Rushmore, and Aaron Rodgers is one of these other guys like Marino and all these other guys who you can put on this list and was amazing. So that's it. But that feels small potatoes-ish to me in terms of legacy. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, 11th, I have Bryce Young. Here's what I thought that you were going to come after me because I think I put Bryce Young too low. The reason why, because we're talking dollars and cents on the table. Bryce Young's playing for a contract.
Great point.
Right. Yeah. And that's the real, it's like, okay, year 3, you go out there and say you get another upset of the Rams and then maybe another upset and then you lose in the championship. Your Doug Flutie-esque winner guy thing is pretty cemented, and Tepper, whoever runs the team now, will turn around and say, yeah, we're going to put the $200 million on the table for you. Go out and throw 3 interceptions or something like that. It's like, yeah, we're on the Tua track, right?
Yeah, that's dangerous. That's dangerous. And dollars and cents wise, the contract is great. I just don't look at them as being set to make a run. But at the same time, I think that they have foundational pieces. When you look at Teteroa McMillan, when you look at Jalen Coker, they found something in Rico Dowdle. I don't know that, you look at the situation right now, I don't think they're going to be in a rush to reset at quarterback regardless of what happens. I think they kind of know what they are, and you're kind of playing with house money at this point. So I think we're a long way off from debating Bryce Young's place. And I think that whatever happens, just making the postseason and winning the division, I think that's a feather in his cap when you go into contract negotiations with that particular franchise. We're not talking about, doing it with a team like the Rams or doing it with a team like the Packers or the Eagles that are in the mix every single year. It seems like they've basically hit the reset button on what they are, and it's kind of time to build around Bryce Young regardless of what happens from here.
Right. And that's the thing. If Bryce Young goes out there and it's like, well, Matthew Stafford threw 4 touchdown passes and the Panthers never had a chance in this game, it has no impact on Bryce Young's future. Like, oh, you should have won that game, buddy, or anything like that. But he does have the opportunity to make a really emphatic statement.
Yes.
And there is also a chance that he goes out there and it's such a dud where you realize, what was this season? What was that? And you say, you know what? You got the 4th year contract. We'll give you the 5th year option, but we're not going to put the $200 million on the table for you for another year. So that's why I thought he was too low. But I think you're right in that middle phrase. Like if everything normal just happens normally, it's just, oh, Young made the playoffs. Good for you.
Exactly. He won the division. He made the playoffs. He got hats and t-shirts.
Absolutely. So 10th, I put C.J. Stroud because it's all about the defense, and he's overcome adversity, and everyone knows his offensive line stinks. And if they go out there and lose, it's guaranteed if they go out there and lose, it's because he took 20 sacks and never had a chance. And if he wins a game or two, it's like, well, we kind of know he's good. And I don't think that they're good enough to actually reach the Super Bowl and do anything more than that. So that's why I have Stroud pretty low on this list.
I won't argue with that. I have him a little bit higher, but the name that I have here is Bo Nix.
Yes,
because I look at Bo Nix, and similar to Drake May, second year, there are some decent pieces around him. Cortland Sutton is a really good piece. RJ Harvey's the guy they're going to want to build around. Maybe get another running back to create that David Montgomery, Jahmyr Gibbs two-headed monster situation. Yep. Swarming defense, great pass rush. But again, kind of like Bryce Young, they're a couple pieces away from looking at the quarterback and saying, hey, you have to be the catalyst. Like, he can be the passenger this time around with that defense and that running game. He doesn't need to be in the driver's seat. If they make the AFC championship game, they're going to love him. If he wins the Super Bowl, they're going to love him. If you go one and done, maybe some questions start to pop up, but it just doesn't seem like at this stage of his career, there's all that much pressure on Bo Nix to make much more progress based on the holes that they still have around him.
And that's kind of, I had Knicks next, right after Stroud. So this is the good time to talk about him. For all the things you said, he has set some kind of record or tied somebody's record for most wins in the first 2 seasons. Is like some Brady-esque, it might have been like Tom Brady's record for the first 2 seasons. I saw that earlier. And of course, wins are not a quarterback stat. So you have to be careful because so much of it is defensive and scheme. And yet at the same time, he's there. Sean Payton is totally happy with him. I guess I just kind of put him in there because he's not quite in the May Caleb script is flipped. I've arrived. It's now more like, look at the supporting cast I have around me. The expectations have gotten a little higher. If he has a one and done game, he doesn't lose his job. But I think his reputation among people who watch the games and look at the development of these quarterbacks would be like, hey, this is a game manager. He is a passenger. He is very much a passenger, and now the clock will be ticking to stop being the passenger.
I think that's a fair point. I just think they need to go out and they need to get him one more dynamic receiver to say, okay, you have the pieces now. Now you have the pieces. Now you go out and you drive the car with all of these weapons around you. To me, that's when you really start to judge a quarterback, is when he has the ideal situation. Can he maximize it? It's one thing not to screw it up. It's one thing not to turn over away your chances or 3 and out late against the Jaguars away your chances. To me, the evaluation starts when you have everything. Can you get it done? Can you be the guy?
Right. And it's a little bit and of course, some guys never have everything. Some guys rarely have anything. But like, how are you operating based off of the expectations of what you're handed? And Nix is kind of living up to the expectations. He's not surpassing them. Like May, I think Caleb, they surpass them. And Nix is meeting them, and then that's a little different. Maybe Bryce Young is surpassing them. I'm not really sure because that team finished 7-9 and back into the playoffs on complete tomfoolery of the NFC South. All right. So like up until now, it's like, okay, it's fine, with these guys. A little bit of happy to be there, or wow, what a great season. At 8, wait, who did you have at 9?
I had Caleb.
Okay.
Caleb Williams right there, only because new head coach and you have some young pieces and it's your second year. I think they've arrived ahead of schedule. If you're one and done to the Packers, it's going to sting. But you can look at the situation and say, all right, let's get some more playmakers up front in terms of the pass rush. Let's see if we can continue building this thing. The second year in the system, second year in the scheme. But I think that he's a guy that showed you a lot of progress this year. And I think that from where you came from, where there are a lot of questions about, is this guy a legitimate NFL quarterback? Can he break down tape with the coaches? To someone who is the first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history, the most comeback wins in Bears history with 6. You checked a lot of boxes. You keep building from here.
Makes sense. So I think we do hit another category here because at 8, I have Jalen Hurts. Despite the Super Bowl pedigree and all of the success, has had a rough year. Like straight up statistically, watching it, rough year. There was a lot of chatter about when he's resting, and it's like, Tanner McKee, is the quarterback controversy going to load up here? And then the people, not just the nitwits at the bar, people who have pulpits talking a little bit about that. That didn't materialize, but there's that ineffable. Eagles lose a playoff game. We can all feel it. Is this a crossroads? What happens with the coordinator? Hurts ain't losing his job, whatever. But what sort of structural changes will be in place and what sort of rhetoric will be surrounding this guy next season if they don't at least make a showing, and particularly an offensive showing in the playoffs?
Yeah, I look at Jalen Hurts, and I think this is a fair spot for him. I have him one spot higher, like towards not towards needing it a little bit, but I look at him and the offense is what it is. I spoke to Seth Joyner, I spoke to Emmanuel Acho, I spoke to Brian Baldinger, and they all said in various forms or fashion, the Eagles' biggest key to a Super Bowl repeat is the defense. That the offense is kind of an afterthought because of how well the defense is playing, how the offense has gone through this identity crisis. But Acho made a really interesting point, and I want to get your thoughts on this. That the game against the Bills, where they didn't complete a pass in the second half, it was almost as if they were just just waiting for that game to be over. That they
Right.
jumped out to the lead, the defense forced a couple turnovers, they contained Josh Allen, they kept James Cook under wraps, and they felt like they didn't need to hit the big plays. They didn't need to dictate to the Bills defense. Do you buy that? And can you win that way against the 49ers, against the Bears, against the Rams or the Seahawks?
It really felt that way watching it. And I saw other people who commented, other people who will do much more breakdown film stuff, that said it felt like they were just trying to sit on a lead for a half against the Bills when the lead was 13 points, which is insanity.
Yeah.
And the fact that it worked is almost like giving encouragement to wackadoodle people for their decision making. But that is what it felt like, because there was no like creativity. I think there were some downfield shots, but part of it is and Hurts is 1,000% in I'm not turning the ball over mode when he gets into that, and that's a little bit of a crisis. Although you can kind of reflect that. Well, if he's in I'm never going to turn the ball over mode, then what else are you going to create here? You're going to create wide receiver screens. You're going to recreate these other sort of misdirection plays, or you're just going to hand off once to Saquon and he gets stopped, and then you fire 2 passes to nowhere. That's a criticism of Sirianni, a criticism of Patullo, absolutely, a criticism of Hurts to a degree, and the entire, entire process that we Right,
Yeah.
right, and you have Acho and you have Joyner, and they're like, well, it's the key is the defense. They're defensive guys. Baldy's the offensive guy, but everyone's like, well, we've written off the offense.
Yeah.
The flip side of it, though, is I think Acho was making a point of the offense looked okay in the first half of that game.
Right. They jumped out to a lead and decided we're just going to wait it out. And we think that we can stop them defensively. We don't need to air it out. I look at this game, and we're going to preview the games in depth a little bit later. Jalen Hurts' big game experience, to me, he has that. Whereas you look at a lot of the other names on this list, when you look at the CJ Strouds and the Calebs and the Drake Mays and the Bo Nixes and the Sam Darnolds, Jalen Hurts says something that none of these other guys have. And if it's a one-score game late and you need a drive to go down and win the game, I don't know that there's anybody in these playoffs that you would point to and say that you would want other than Jalen Hurts in that situation. So as much as there's an identity crisis offensively, as much as there's no real schematic flow to what they do in the passing game, as much as the offensive line seems to have regressed, Jalen Hurts is the X factor. And he's an X factor that I would want to go to battle with if I were any of these playoff teams, really, in this particular situation, knowing what's at stake and knowing his track record in those games.
Exactly. I remember it's not just, so you won a Super Bowl and we're counting rings, reached the Super Bowl at another time. There's a bunch of playoff victories, a bunch of evidence, and a lot of big games where he was the one who came through or made the big play when it counts. I think as I wrote, you'd swear he was too streaky and ineffective and indecisive to lead a team to the Super Bowl if you hadn't seen him do it twice.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Okay. So I had him, we might have these guys flipped. I had Brock Purdy next on the list. Okay. Now, Purdy has reached overtime of the Super Bowl and gotten zero credit for it because it was all scheme, guys, etc.
Defense. Yeah.
Defense. Debo, McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, blah, 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 blah. A lot of those guys are gone. Some of them we don't even know where they are right now. I'm looking at you, Brendan.
The line of the week in your column in walkthrough, go read the NFC playoff preview because it's tremendous anyway. But Brandon, you went around the corner to get a pack of cigarettes and never came back.
Right. He's like the deadbeat dad of the 49ers, and I'm afraid to make a bigger joke about him because I'm afraid I'm going to find out that he's done something terrible. Like, I don't even want to discuss things. I hope he's just like finding himself somewhere or whatever. But yeah, he disappeared, and of course other guys have been hurt in and out or were traded, etc. Purdy's out there with a normal offense and a terrible defense. I don't think it hurts his legacy, a one and done. Well, half your defense got hurt, whatever. What he can do for himself, get a couple wins in there after signing this contract. You see, you weirdos, you wanted to bench me for Mac Jones in October, you freaks, just because I look like babyface. Okay, just because of your priors, just because I was Mr. Irrelevant, I got us a championship game. I threw 4 touchdowns in a battle back and forth with Stafford or who Hurts or whatever. Look what he can do for himself with wins.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I think that when you look at Brock Purdy, as I wrote in the column on Monday, his whole career has been defined by that Mr. Irrelevant marketing campaign. He hasn't been able to shake it, no matter what
Right.
he's done with the NFC Championship run, with the Super Bowl run. And if they make even a run of winning two playoff games this time around, I think it's his greatest accomplishment, even more so than going to the Super Bowl and taking Mahomes to overtime, because the supporting cast isn't the same. I mean, yeah,
Right.
you have McCaffrey, but you don't have Debo.
Right.
Ayuk might or might not be there. Ricky Pearsall might or might not be there. He's not. He's not Debo in his
Trent
prime,
Williams. Right.
and Trent Williams is banged up, and the defense is, the practice squad is out there because the backups of the backups are hurt. So if you go into Philadelphia and you beat that defense, to
Mhm.
me that's as much of a signature victory as anything he's done. The comeback against the Lions in the conference championship game, the performance in the Super Bowl, any of it. If he does that, then I think we need to lay down an edict that we're never going to refer to Brock Purdy as Mr. Irrelevant ever again, unless we're saying, oh, Super Bowl champion Brock Purdy, formerly
Yeah.
known as Mr. Irrelevant, dead, buried forever.
Right. I haven't used that one in years. I never want to hear about his contract from people who don't actually like study cap space and contract.
Contract.
They just go, he signed a contract that bad because he not Mahomes so bad, like that silliness that you get from some of the folks who do what we're doing right now, who might not have the experience to really go through these things. What's good about this is we're talking about the positive side of legacy.
Yes.
Yeah, this is the positive side of legacy. Purdy can silence doubters. Bryce Young can get paid. Bo Nix can like silence his doubters, etc. It can start getting negative on the other side, though.
Yeah, I have a different name than Brock Purdy here.
Okay.
I have Jordan Love, who I see you have a
Ooh,
lot higher on the list.
okay.
But the only reason is they're so hurt. I mean, you look at the defense.
Yeah.
No Micah Parsons, Devontae
Yeah.
Wyatt out. Josh Jacobs has been held together by duct tape and chicken wire
Yeah.
over the month of December. Tucker Kraft has been out of commission, out for the season
Weak.
for about a month, which was
Yeah.
his best, most reliable, and the weapon and the guy that he's most confident in. Like, can one guy do it all by himself? And should we judge one guy leading a skeleton crew into these particular playoffs? Now, if it was a perfect world and it was the
Mhm.
same Packers team that ran the Lions out of Lambeau Field and had this dominant swarming pass rush all season long, if it were those Packers, then yeah, I'd have Jordan Love way, way higher on this list. But as they're constructed, they feel like they're kind of playing with house money. If they beat the Bears, hey, tremendous. You lived up to Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur carrying you past a really opportunistic defense and a great running game. But if they lose, who are you sent to battle with? You were sent to battle with butter knives.
Here's the thing, like you and I operating in a vacuum and really studying the league can say, oh, they're playing on house money. No one in Green Bay, no cheesehead is thinking that. And most of the tastemakers aren't thinking that. This is a team that keeps making the seventh seed, keep going one and done in the playoffs. And also we have superimposed on that Malik Willis coming in and playing real well in relief of Jordan Love, and Jordan Love coming to the end of his contract relatively soon. Again, nobody on this list is losing their job. I'm triple checking, except Rodgers, who might retire. Nobody is losing his job here, but like where that all the bloom falls off the rose. Again, the extenuating circumstances 100% legit. That's why I put Love so high. But maybe we'll revisit that in a moment. I'm up at number 6, and I got Matthew Stafford for the reasons you had Aaron Rodgers high. Because the Hall of Fame is there. I don't know if he retires tomorrow. I don't know if he makes first ballot. I don't know if he winds up on a finalist list for a couple of years. He's not 1,000,000% there. If he reaches another Super Bowl, he's a Hall of Famer. If he goes one and done again, you do start to get into that exact question you would have for Rodgers, but on a guy who was a lower scale for most of his career.
I have a different name here,
I,
and I have C.J. Stroud.
oh,
Only
okay.
because I look at that defense. They're
Yeah.
menacing. They're swarming. They're the best defense in football. There's decent talent on offense, but they're so young. The receivers,
Well,
other than Nico Collins, are really, really young that you're still
yeah.
going to develop and try to win with in the future. And I look at CJ Stroud just making these playoffs to me is the accomplishment.
Yeah.
It seems like, you came back from like 1-5 or whatever ridiculousness it was early in the year to make these playoffs, give yourself a fighter's chance to win the division. To me, this is another house money situation, and they seem happy with Stroud. They're not going to be looking at elsewhere anytime soon.
No, and he's another guy who's in the contract situation, although I think his contract is going to be signed, sealed, and delivered. It is similar that Love and Stroud have very broadly similar conversations. I believe that's going to be the third straight playoff appearance for both of them.
Yeah.
Stroud has at least one victory in the playoffs. He might have two.
I think
Browns.
Yeah.
He beat the Browns, and he also beat the Chargers.
So he's two.
Okay. And they were very defense assisted, but they're, a win's a win to that degree. So he's not quite where Love is, where that team goes out there and doesn't play well in the playoffs. But you're still in that similar place with the young quarterback and the extenuating circumstances. I mean, Stroud wins the Super Bowl. That's a legacy definer, defense or no defense. But again, that I go back to, it's still house money-ish.
Yeah.
If they take the loss. And it's like your offensive line stinks, whatever. But Love doesn't. I don't think Love will get the same grace, because Love can make the same argument, and yet I don't think he gets the same grace. You could even say, well, Davis Mills played well for a couple of games, just as Malik Willis did, but we're not holding it against this guy. Hey, you know what? It ain't fair sometimes.
Right, exactly, and I think in fairness, C.J. Stroud gets a much better draw. I mean, I would love to play Aaron Rodgers and that Steelers offense with the defense I have, rather than going back into Soldier Field, back into a bitter, angry, physical rivalry against a team that's feeling itself, knows it's punching above its weight, wants to make a statement. I would much rather be in C.J. Stroud's shoes going on the road than certainly Jordan Love's with a banged up, mash unit that I'm dragging into a buzzsaw.
Yeah, I mean, C.J. Stroud's shoes, because I'm watching Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter walk off the field. I'm like, hey, guys, whose blood is that on your jersey? And they're like, ain't mine, ain't ours. Whereas whatever's going on with what's left of the Packers defense, you're not going to have that kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
All right, so I had Stafford 6. Yeah, I had Stafford 6. I didn't know where to put Trevor Lawrence, because I don't know where the conversation around Trevor Lawrence landed in the last couple of weeks. It's not where it was 2 months ago, where we're doing the trade stories. Okay. Lawrence has made the playoffs in the past. He's led playoff victories in the past. A playoff victory in this particular situation, I think, would help his esteem. I don't know if it hurts his esteem, because he'd be playing the Bills, but we are many years into the career of Trevor Lawrence. We're still doing this stuff with him. And you do reach a point where it's like, well, we're done talking about you as the others receiving consideration guy. When are we going to get to the fireworks factory? And so I put him 5th, because I was just kind of confused where else to put him.
Yeah, I have him one spot lower, so I have Purdy here. We already talked about Purdy, so I'll go into Lawrence here at number 4. But I look at Trevor Lawrence, and the conversation has really, really changed, right? Because I do an appearance on Sundays. A colleague of mine from Heavy, Paul Lesden Jr., covers the Jets. He has a Jets podcast. So Sunday mornings, I do like a 10-minute spot with him. 2 months ago, I'm floating the idea of send a couple of first-round picks to the Jaguars and get Trevor Lawrence, because he wants a change of scenery. It's not working in that system with Liam Cohen. And then you watch the game against Denver, right? You watch what happened at Mile High, and Parker Washington just has this breakout performance, and Brenton Strange becomes this red zone weapon, and Travis Etienne starts running wild, and the defense seems to find itself. And it seems like over the last 3 weeks, it's like we've seen the future of the AFC, and Trevor Lawrence, Parker Washington, Travis Etienne, and Brenton Strange, and eventually Brian Thomas Jr. if he bounces back, and eventually Travis Hunter in whatever role that he has. It's like the Jaguars have the pieces to be a real factor in the AFC moving forward. And it's like, you look at him and like, we're too early to talk about legacy. We're not going to talk about contracts, but it's time now to start maximizing the weapons that have shown themselves over the closing stretch of this season.
Right, because he is in year 2 or 3 of the contract, and he's on coach 3 or 4, I think. I don't know if we even want to count.
Do we count Urban? Urban was like having a cup of coffee.
Yeah, right.
So you have with arsenic laced in it,
Oh gosh, a little whiskey in there too, with somebody just off camera waiting to come in and sit on his lap. But like the with Lawrence, and the thing is, that Broncos game, very impressive. And that's the one I have to point to and hang my hat and say, well, this is who the Jaguars and why they really are, because so many of the rest of their games were against Cam Ward, Riley Leonard, Brady Cook. A lot of the second half of the season, they were coasting on the teams in various degrees of quitting, and they went out there and they played extremely well against that Broncos team. So that's what I guess what this opportunity means. You went out there and beat the Bills. And then maybe you get another win along the way. And it's like, okay, we're going to stop asking questions. We trust Lawrence, trust Liam Cohn, and all the other guys you mentioned. That is a nucleus, and we can like hang our hats on that.
No doubt about it. I agree.
Okay. Coming in at number 4, maybe too low, Justin Herbert. Okay.
That's where I have him. Yep.
Right. Right. It's like, I'm not the only one who's like, let's Fisher cut bait at this point. I am aware of all the extenuating circumstances this year. We have just gone through like a mini lifetime with Justin Herbert, and there's been no playoff wins. Now he does have to go to Foxborough to play, I think, overrated, but quite good, like undeniably strong opponent here. I feel like my little movement of angry little gerbil people who've been sniping about Justin Herbert for years and years and years. But if you've been coming along with me and you've agreed with me for all these years, I'm sorry for calling you an angry gerbil person. I'm calling myself an angry gerbil person. Okay, you're wonderful. You're wonderful for watching this podcast and saying, yeah, Tanner, yeah, he takes the piss out of some of that stuff here. But we're going to become a giant, will become a horde if Herbert goes out there, gets beaten by Drake May, and it's like, oh, here's another quarterback who has passed you on the awesomeness list. May has now passed you, and Stroud got past you, and like Bo Nix is neck and neck with you. Be a real problem for Justin Herbert.
I would have Justin Herbert higher. I would have him closer to like 2 on this list if it weren't for the extenuating circumstances that you point out, because they're so extenuating. I mean, you look at the start to the year, the first 3 or 4 weeks when they had both tackles who were healthy.
Yeah.
They looked like the best team in football. They looked like the road to the Super Bowl was going to go through SoFi Stadium for the Chargers. And then you lose Rashawn Slater. Then you lose Joe Alt. And you look at what this season became for Justin Herbert, and sacked 5 times against the Texans. Hey, it happens. Whatever. Look what the Texans did to Josh Allen earlier in the year. The Texans made a habit of menacing quarterbacks and destroying offenses and throwing their weight around. Justin Herbert was sacked 5 times or more 5 times this year. Like, I just don't know with that offensive line where to set the expectations for him in a playoff situation, because it's just, you're going to have guys in your face every single day. Now, we can talk about the Patriots pass rush leaving a lot to be desired.
Yeah.
So maybe you maximize your opportunity there, but it just seems like, I don't want to call it a write-off year, but I don't know that I'm going to judge Justin Herbert on what happens this week compared to charging away another loss in blowout fashion in the playoffs last year.
Here's where I turn into my Goblin King of anti-Herbertism with that. And everything you said is absolutely correct. And Brock Purdy has gone out there with no one and doesn't get the same grace. CJ Stroud has gone out there with like 17 different line combinations.
Christian McCaffrey, though. He has Christian McCaffrey, though.
He has 0 defense. Yeah. And he had nothing else, okay? So CJ Stroud has gone out there with 11 different line combinations, and so similar offensive line problems. Doesn't generally get the same grace. Jordan Love, Elgin Jenkins got hurt in week 4. Zach Tom's been hurt for weeks. Like Justin Herbert is the only guy who's like, well, 2 of his offensive linemen are done, so all expectations are out the window, and we're just happy he's here now. No one else gets this. No one, and he's going to stop getting it. He's going to stop getting it.
They're both all pros, though. They're both all pro tackles, right? It's not like we're talking about a guard and a tackle or a center and a tackle. Like, you're talking about your bookends, 2 of the best players at that position being out. I think it changes things. I think it has to change the expectations in a way that if in a perfect world, if you had both of those tackles healthy, to me, there's no excuse. To me, if both of your top 2 all-pro offensive tackles are healthy, then Justin Herbert has to make a run. Has to. Because for all the reasons you said, the situation, you've been there before, you have the weapons, these guys don't get the latitude. It just seems like these are 2 more detrimental injuries than what guys have dealt with.
Or we go to the 49ers and like, okay, Fred Warner and Nick Bosa. Well, they're on the other side of the ball. So you have to win shootouts. So you have to go out there and win shootouts as Brock Purdy. You have to go out there and beat the Bears in shootouts and things like that. And then your left tackle gets hurt and against the Seahawks, like, sorry, you're a wild card team. So again, like you can do the whole thing, and I don't want to. And again, the extenuating circumstances are real. What Herbert suffered is real, but they go out there and they lose this game, and then we go back into that field. How many of the Herbert hive are going to be in that position where this is just my priors? It's
Yeah.
just my priors,
Yeah.
and like I'm holding on to. And I'm not saying he's a bad quarterback. That's silly. That's ridiculous. But it's been 6 years. Get out there and get a win.
Fair. Fair.
Yeah.
Who's next?
And yet I had him only fourth. So third, I have Darnold. I
Okay.
mean, but
Okay.
what will you think if he goes out there in 2 weeks and stinks it up?
I'm going to have to unblock a dude on Blue Sky who spent days harassing me over Sam Darnold and saying that I was unfair or I'm somehow unethically biased against Sam Darnold, that I can't recognize the 27 wins over the past 2 years. I don't
What?
know, man. If he goes out and stinks it up, I'm going to say it's Sam Darnold. I'm going to say that that's just what he is, that he
Yeah.
reverted to what he's always been, that they couldn't hide him the way they hid him in some of these big wins for much of the games against the Rams, much of the game against the Panthers, and much of the
Mhm.
game against the 49ers when you're leaning on Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker and a menacing defense and
Right.
hoping and praying that your quarterback doesn't make a mistake and Jackson Smith and Jigba makes 3 big plays and you win the game. That's the philosophy there.
What was that guy who was following you in Blue Sky, Troy Aikman? Because man,
Maybe it was. I couldn't decide. 3 days in a row, I was getting posts about Sam Darnold and how I'm so biased against him, and I'm biased against Daniel Jones, and I can't evaluate quarterbacks fairly. I don't know. You were sacked 15 times in back-to-back losses last year to lose home field advantage and then
right.
lose in the first round. I don't know. To do it in the playoffs.
Every time on the telecast when Aikman's like, well, I'll tell you what, you can really set your watch to a quarterback like Sam Darnold. It's more about the efficiency and the leadership. He would fumble the moment Aikman's went through one of his little super polite things, or take like a 12-yard sack where it was like, dude, somebody happened to be open. Somebody was open in the flat, dude. You didn't have to run backwards and take that sack. But like, and I think for you and I, and again, a lot of us who do this for a living, there are these quarterbacks who exist in the NFL between the 8th best and the 19th best quarterback, who we know they have to remain starters. There cannot be 32 top 5 quarterbacks in the NFL. That's not how top 5s work. Okay. But with these guys, it's like they are starters. You try to build around him. But when you reach this point in the season, it's like my faith level has wavered in this individual. It's Darnold. It could be Herbert, although it might not be Herbert for other people. It's Goff for a lot of us. Yeah. Okay.
And let's be fair here. I want to be fair about Sam Darnold. Maybe we could touch on it when I have him on the list at number 2. But
Mhm.
I give him a lot of credit. You avoided the big mistake. You avoided the catastrophe against the 49ers. And that's not for nothing, given his
Mhm.
track record, given the track record of turnovers and interceptions. You led the drive late against the Rams to
Yes.
put yourself in a position to win the NFC West and eventually the number 1 seed. You did what you needed to do on short fields against Carolina to put yourself in a position to be the
Yes.
number 1 seed. You did what you needed to do without throwing the game away. And that's progress. That's meaningful progress. And I give him credit for that. But
Right.
what I can't discount when it comes to Sam Darnold is the track record, which Walter Jones told me on Sunday night. Your past is your past. You need to prove it every time you
Yes.
step on the football field because your past is your past and you can't overlook it. But you can't also overlook the impact of a defense that is number 1 in DVOA, a running game
Right.
that has those 2 running backs that you lean on schematically and philosophically to limit what you need to do. He's made a
Right.
lot of progress, but he needs to do it in the playoffs.
Right. And I think he needs to do it early in games. I think he needs to do it where there's more sustaining of drives. Both Seahawks fans, I think Aaron Schatz would point out, he was better in the first half of the season, but he's often better in the first halves of seasons. And then you kind of get wise to the things he's doing that Kubiak was doing to make him more comfortable, et cetera.
Yep. Who do you have at number 2?
I have Jordan Love at number 2. We talked about him a little bit. I think I might have him too high based on some of the things we talked about here. I just know there will be poisonous conversation if they go one and done.
Yeah, it's fair. I have my number 3. My 2 is Darnold. My 3 is Matthew Stafford, and it's
Okay.
just because of the situation, right? If Devontae Adams comes back, you have Puka Nacua, you have Devontae, you have Kyron Williams. I think Blake Corum is still healthy, so you have the 2-headed monster. You have Sean McVay. offensive wizard, great play caller, bright offensive mind, defense that has playmakers at all three levels. How do we look at Matthew Stafford if you cough it up again to the Panthers, or if you
Right.
hold serve and you win in Charlotte and you lose to that Eagles
It,
offense, or you
yes.
lose to Brock Purdy with
It's
no defense whatsoever? How do we look at him in those circumstances with everything he has on his side? You have everything, now go win everything again.
it's another cold, rainy day somewhere, and he throws 2 interceptions early in the game and can't lead the comeback at the end. And when Hall of Fame conversations come up, and people listening, whatever, people think like, how do you leave him out? Like, are you going to advocate against him? Are you going to be a jerk? If I was sitting in the room, it's like, F Matthew Stafford because he lost playoff games or something like that. That's not how it ever works. It's you're sitting in the room and you have a finalist list in front of you, and there's Stafford, and you're remembering like a bunch of playoff losses, and you get obviously a Super Bowl ring, a lot of success, and like Cameron Jordan is on the list from the Saints. And it's like, well, here's a guy who had a 20-year career, has a Super Bowl ring. That's how old he is, going back to some of those teams and all his successes. And the Saints person stood up and gave this presentation. And by that point, Jordan is probably like in the booth and things like that. And you think, and Kelsey's on the list, and Kelsey's your first ballot. That's what happens. And then when you're sitting there saying, wow, maybe I should be rewarding Cam Jordan or Cam Hayward or some offensive lineman whose name escapes me right now, who's on this ballot, rather than the quarterback who's famous but had all those losses. That's what happens in the room.
Yeah.
That's kind of what happens to Eli Manning in the room, although I think Stafford will have a better case than Eli when the time comes. And that's what Stafford is fighting about at that legacy level.
Right, and resetting the clock on Phillip Rivers, you might be having the Phillip Rivers versus Matthew Stafford debate if Stafford retires in a year or two, right? I mean,
Right. Which is a situation where people are putting their quarterfinalist ballot together and they see Stafford and Rivers there. And it's all like, wow, their success was so far in the past. And Stafford was like mostly a stack or whatever. And like neither of them make finalists for a year.
Right.
Because they're mixed up in this gumbo with this other group of dudes. And Aaron Rodgers might be there too.
Yeah, I agree, and I can't overlook the infrastructure that's around Matthew Stafford. I can't
Right.
like Sean McVay counts for something in the playoffs. At least he should. Devontae Adams and the impact he made when he was healthy, he
Right.
counts for something, and so
Yeah.
does Puka Nacua. He has a lot. Matthew Stafford does that. A lot of the quarterbacks on this list aren't entering the postseason with, and again, you start talking about the path, and you start talking about the teams that you're going to go up against and how flawed they are, where you should be built to beat them. If you come up small and you're one and done or two and done, it's a conversation changer for me.
Good. Interesting. I thought I put him too high, but I'm surprised you have him higher. Do we both have Josh Allen number one?
We do. Yes. Yes.
Poor Josh Allen. He's so freaking good at football. But like there's this thing, and especially this year, there's this thing. All right. We've given all the mulligans. We saw 8 seconds. We saw all the goofy stuff, missed field goals. It's gone now. You got to do it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dracula's not there, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes isn't there to get in the way,
Right.
as he has so many times in the postseason. Peek behind the curtain of how my column came together on Sunday. During the afternoon, I pre-wrote 2 sections. One for Aaron Rodgers needing the win to cement his legacy in the deep run. One for Lamar Jackson. And the fact that there's no Patrick Mahomes there, there wouldn't have been an Aaron Rodgers because you vanquished him. And the kicker of that column was the gatekeeper is no longer there. So if you can't walk through the door this time, you might never walk through it. And I'm starting to feel that way a little bit about Josh Allen because there's no Burrow. There's no Mahomes. There's no Lamar Jackson. The situation is set up perfectly for them to make a run, for him to be the MVP that he's been in the past, that he's capable of being consistently, be the difference maker. Go lead that Super Bowl run because the excuses aren't really there. But then you start looking at the wide receiving core is underwhelming.
Yes.
The offensive line is banged up. The defense isn't any good. And it's like the door is wide open, but a supporting cast is meh.
And I don't think, and again, I wouldn't walk away from this. It was like, well, this tarnishes Allen forever. He never gets another chance. But first, it impacts Brady, the offensive coordinator. Then it impacts McDermott. Then it impacts Bean. Okay, because
Yeah.
each of them along the way has something to answer for. Weird offense this year, good from a coordinator standpoint. The coaching standpoint, it's like, why didn't you seize all these opportunities? Why was this team getting beaten by the Dolphins and the
Right.
Falcons so readily? That's a lot on the defense. You realize there are personnel issues that goes on Bean. He'll go up there and say, yeah, well, I had salary cap issues. I was trying to keep together. That's fine. It's still the heavy is the head that wears the crown that's on you. And once you start holding them accountable, then what's the team Josh Allen leads look like as one by one those guys have to either leave or change what they do?
And Bean, I don't think escapes accountability because in the NFL draft, they drafted front seven defenders with 3 of the first 4 picks in the
Yes.
draft, knowing the wide receiving core that they had. They leaned heavily on Keon Coleman making a leap, which he didn't do this year,
Right.
obviously. Khalil Shakir has been a godsend to them for what they need him to be. But when you're looking and you're talking about Brandon Cooks being a guy that you're counting on in big
Yeah.
situations
Yeah.
and big games,
Mm-hmm.
what exactly are you doing to help your quarterback?
And Cooks is a guy you had to grab at the last second. And there's
Yeah,
a
right.
bunch of grab the guys last second, grab the old guys out of retirement to come out and do it. And a lot of those defensive linemen haven't done well. Like that's the thing. These kids have not been ready, and they were kind of needed to step up early, and that's why you have these defensive issues. So we both agree Josh Allen's going to be a POS. No, we don't think Josh Allen is a POS, obviously, but he has this opportunity to silence the doubters and things, and also has an opportunity to create doubters. I think is the best way to put it.
Yeah, I spoke to Eric Moulds in the column. If you want to go check that out, I
Oh
thought
yeah.
he kind of flipped the script on the question. It
Okay.
wasn't what Josh Allen needs to do; it's what the Bills need to do.
Yes. Yes. And I feel that way. I feel that way. So maybe we shouldn't have put him on. Maybe we shouldn't. But if
Yeah,
we put
I'd flip Darnold. I'd put Darnold at one. I'd be happy to
okay,
do
put
that
Darnold
and
at one, that's fine.
anger Blue Sky.
Okay, put Darnold at one and anger that guy. But if it was coaches, I think McDermott's one.
Yes.
Okay,
1,000%. Yep.
right. So okay, so that's why we do this, because it's like it helps us.
It's a great thought exercise. Sets the expectations going into it.
It hones our own ideas, and it also gives us a break to not just do playoff previews. Because those of you who ingest a lot of different podcasts this week, there's going to be a lot of playoff previews, and we're going to do a playoff preview now. But I asked you for both of our sanity, maybe we should keep it a little short, right?
Yes, we're going to do lightning round. So I'm going to throw it to you. My prediction column predicting every game in the bracket went live this morning. I started with the AFC. I know that you don't want to start with Rams Panthers because you completely flipped the script on your Monday walkthrough to avoid leading with that game. So let's lead with the AFC and let's lead with Chargers Patriots. Who you got? 10 seconds or less. Lightning round.
I have the Patriots. This is my Binky Bowl. These are the two teams I like to just be obnoxious about. I think that the Patriots get the win to prove that they're not overrated, and Justin Herbert gets the loss to prove that he is. How about you?
I have the Patriots as well. It's the explosiveness on offense, number 1 in EPA, 0.13 per play. 11th defensively in EPA, more balanced than they look on paper. Let's go see if they're schedule vultures or if they're for real. So I got the Patriots.
That's fair. So we agree on that one. Okay, next.
Bills versus Jaguars.
Chaos ball. We have no idea what's going to happen. Neither of these teams can be normal simultaneously. And yet I think the Bills have a higher ceiling than the Jaguars. So I'm going with the team with the higher ceiling. That's the Buffalo Bills.
Most important game in franchise history is what they're calling it in Duval. I tend to agree with that, given how flawed the Bills are, given what we've seen out of the young players around Trevor Lawrence. I don't have a lot of upsets on Wild Card Weekend, but this is one of them. I have the home team. I have the Jaguars, number 3 seed, holding serve.
Okay, just a quick timeout. That team beat John Elway in the playoffs years and years and years.
No.
Right.
They went to an AFC championship game. I'm aware.
Right. I literally was writing something that I had to say best Jaguars team of the 20th century, because Tom Coughlin's teams were phenomenal. But yeah, I get what they're saying. All right, big win. Okay, so we got a split on that one. You pick Jacksonville. Well, who's next?
Texans and Steelers.
Okay. As we speak, Aaron Rodgers is watching tape of the Texans defense and drinking his trippin' tea and running to the bathroom and hiding for the rest of the day. Texans are going to roll in this one.
I laughed out loud, literally on my couch, let out a chuckle when you said the only thing I could take solace in from this game on Sunday night is what the Texans are going to do on defense to vaporize either one of these teams. I'm with you. I think Houston, I don't know that I don't know that Aaron Rodgers is going to get past midfield. It just
Right.
seems like this is going to be one of these like statement games. Oh, we came up short to win the division, but look what we can do defensively. We're going to punish you. We're going to beat you. We're going to win this game.
Literally, and I'll do this with Aaron. The one thing the Texans defense can't do is it can't contain a scrambling quarterback very well. I get Aaron Rodgers.
Perfect draw.
Yeah. All right.
Perfect draw.
What's next?
Let's go to the NFC,
Yeah.
where the number 5 seed Matthew Stafford led Los Angeles Rams head to Charlotte to take on the Carolina Panthers and a team they lost to earlier this year.
I believe there are showers in the forecast for Saturday night, so be careful because, Matthew Stafford in the rain melts like sugar. But I don't think that's going to be enough. We're going with the Rams. Lightning is not going to strike twice.
Agreed here. The Rams, one of the most complete teams, one of the most complete rosters, better quarterback, better coach in terms of Sean McVay, more battle tested. If the Rams lose this game, it's the upset of the decade. Give me the Rams.
Yeah, give me the Rams. Absolutely. What's next?
Saturday night at Soldier Field. Gonna be cold again. Gonna be windy again. Packers and Bears.
I think the Packers will roll out to another lead because that's what happened the last 2 times. And then it'll be the Caleb Williams wackadoodle comeback show, which will either go either way. I think it's going to go the right way, and the Bears are going to get this win because, as we discussed, Packers are just running out of dudes.
Running out of dudes. I don't love Ben Johnson after the game the other day making the comment of, oh, some teams rest their starters, we play ours. I didn't love giving that much bulletin board material going into the playoffs.
Yeah, what the hell's that?
It seemed a little bit unnecessary to me. I know you love taking shots at Matt LaFleur, but whatever. I don't think it matters, the bulletin board material, because I don't know that I can tell you who's going to be starting in the front 7 for the Packers in this game. I don't think this one's going to be particularly close. I think the Bears run out to a lead and they protect it by running the ball with DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. I like the Chicago Bears maybe in blowout fashion.
Yeah, just going back to that, it's like, Clayton Tune has to start because all the other guys are hurt, but go put your starters out there. Like, what kind of nonsense is that? By the way, if the Bears do lose, it's going to be on a trick play near the goal line or on 4th down by Ben Johnson, where he's going to call one of his genius moves, and that'll be the loss. And it's like, I'm going to put that one on myself. Yeah, no, duh.
Almost lost the game on one of those calls deep in the red zone.
Yes.
In the last game they played at Soldier Field with that cockamamie direct snap to the tight end. Caleb Williams is your quarterback. Put the ball in his hands at the 1-yard line. I don't care what you do with it.
You can run the ball. You have one of the best running games in the league. You're facing a team with 2 defensive linemen out. Just run the ball. Don't be a super genius. Don't be Wile E. Coyote with your rocket skates.
And closing out our pick segment here, the Niners and the Eagles.
Going to be watching the Trent Williams injury report because I think the Niners are 2 different teams without their left tackle. I'm leaning towards the Eagles, but here in Philly, the faith level in this Philadelphia team is really low.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this. It's the game I debated most in the entire bracket, putting it together, because I think it's really a litmus test on 2 schools of thought. It's old school, smash mouth, strangling defense can contain a high-flying offense against an offense that can put on a fireworks show like they did against the Bears a couple weeks ago, right? And I just think that in a playoff situation with the game on the line, Jalen Hurts is the difference maker. I think that defense beats offense in these sorts of situations. And I didn't love what I saw out of the 49ers against the Seahawks defense last week. That felt more like a harbinger and a preview of what to expect from San Fran when you get up against an Eagles defense or even a Bears defense in the postseason. I think this game is a lot closer than people think. It might take a comeback game-winning drive from the Eagles, but I think Philly has enough to get it done.
And that's it. I think if it was the final score was Seahawks 27, 49ers 24, Purdy 2 touchdowns and a pick or something like that. The Niners are more ready for this showdown. But it looks like the cracks are starting to show a little bit. And I think the Seahawks showed what an Eagles caliber defense can do to the Niners. Although, again, if you get Pearsall out there, Trent Williams out there, it might be a different Niners team.
George McKelvey checks in the comment section. I'm picking the Eagles because Brock Purdy is strictly a system guy. Sorry.
See, that's what I said. That's why we had him eighth or ninth. I don't think he's strictly a system guy any more than anyone else, but that's still out there. Honestly, I think if he grew a beard, it'd be different. If Brock Purdy if he looked like Baker Mayfield and went out there with his beard and people would believe him. I'm serious.
Yeah.
Although it doesn't work for Sam Darnold. That's because the beard makes him look like young Santa Claus from the Christmas special, like Mickey Rooney Santa Claus.
What do you got coming up on Two Deep Zone?
You do not want to pursue this line of conversation. I'm doing this the Black Monday and Stupor Tuesday updates as we go, and that's going to be out tomorrow. I was just checking on what the Falcons are up to, and if you thought you knew what the Falcons were doing yesterday, hold on to your hats because they've done like 6 more things. Can we do it real quick?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's roll through it.
Okay, here's what I got. We thought that they hired 2 separate consulting firms, one to find the general manager and one to find the head coach, and then they promoted Matt Ryan, and they gave him a new position called president of football. Not like CEO, not president of football operations, but president of football. But now they're interviewing a 49ers guy for the president of football role that we thought that they just gave to Matt Ryan. Not to be blunt, this might be a Rooney Rule situation where if you create a new role, you have to interview a minority guy. I would hate to be the minority guy who was dragged out there to do this out of some sense of obligation. Maybe that's not what it is, but it's wackadoodle stuff going on with the Atlanta Falcons. I'll be writing about that. And I also have a special coming up, Matt. Things the Eagles offense doesn't do.
Ooh, I love it.
So it's an in-depth list of all the things the Eagles offense doesn't do. It's going to be 237,000 words because there's a lot of things the Eagles offense doesn't do. What do you got coming up?
Yeah, I have an in-depth feature probably dropping Thursday or Friday going into wildcard weekend on the Chicago Bears and how they've turned things around and what the difference is for Caleb Williams coming from the preseason narratives and what we saw coming out of his rookie season to a guy that leads the most comeback victories in a season in Bears history, first 4,000-yard passer in Bears history, leaning into the Bears' rapid turnaround from worst to first. And Friday we'll have a wildcard edition of the mailbag. Send me in those questions. I'll pose them to NFL executives, coaches, scouts, agents, current and former players, get their answers for you. Since we've had coming up on Between the Hash Marks over the next couple days.
That's beautiful. It's a good time you'll probably get some Black Monday questions because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of interest there. And after a couple of days when the smoke clears, you do get a better sense of what's going on with some of these organizations.
No doubt about it. So enjoyed the show. This was a ton of fun. Be sure to follow Mike Tanier on Blue Sky at Mike Tanier. I'm at Matt Lombardo on Blue Sky at Matt Lombardo NFL on Threads. Subscribe to the Two Deep Zone on Substack. It's mandatory reading 7 days a week, but especially on Mondays with walkthrough. Subscribe to Two Deep Zone on Substack. You can subscribe to Between the Hash Marks on Substack as well. Check us out on my YouTube channel at Matt Lombardo 975. You can check me out on Threads at Matt Lombardo NFL. But Mike, it's been a ton of fun. Enjoy the weekend. We'll have some legacies to recap, some games to recap and look ahead to. To me, it's the best time of year, man. Great football ahead over the next month or so.
You and I, we're both the president of football.